If you dream of your motorcycle, if your day isn't complete without some time in the saddle, if all you need is the open road and a full tank of gas, well, you've come to the right place, because this is Throttled, and it's starting now. Here's your host, Kevin McKinney.
Hello and welcome back to Throttled, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Glad you decided to join us once again. I believe this is episode 251. This today, because that's proper English. We've got Larry, as always, the most regular we have. Yo. And Chris, we found Chris. He was hiding out back. Was trying to sneak into Barber, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Let's go do a show. And he was like, all right, we'll do it. So how you doing, bud?
Doing good. Good to be with you guys. Like I said, pre-show, haven't had a chance to hang out with you guys in a while, so looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. My lighting is horrible today. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, all the people on the radio are just like, yeah, it looks fine to me. Well, Larry, let's start with you. How has your week been, my friend? Have you got a lot of riding in?
Well, I didn't get a lot of riding in. I did get a ride in earlier in the week. I rode up to Point Reyes and then went on the Point Reyes Petaluma Road, San Antonio, came back home, about a 65-mile ride. And I was planning to do another ride today. The weather turned like on Friday here, and it got really cold for us. So down in the 50s, shall we say. And I went out today. I was just about to mount up for a ride, and lo and behold, it started raining, and then it started hailing. So we thankfully are now officially, I think, out of the fire season, at least around here. But it did interfere with my ride. I'll sacrifice one ride for an end to the fire season. But I will hope to and plan to get out this week. What about you, Chris? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so like I said, haven't caught up with you guys in a while. So actually, Larry, you had asked me before about track days. So last weekend of September, I did squeeze in my last track day for the year. So I did another novice class day up at New York Safety Track, and then I think second week of October, they kind of announced that they were done for the season. They actually had posted photos of like frost on the track. So wow. I guess when it starts getting a little icy, it's probably time to wind things down. Although then, it's just been kind of weird with weather patterns and stuff. Then they had kind of a uptick. The weather got better, and they were like, maybe we closed too soon. They had a picture that the sun was out and looked like the track was really nice. But anyway, so that was a ton of fun. I started playing around with a lap timer app. I have like a little external GPS unit, for doing like track lap times and stuff. You need a GPS that's more sensitive than what's built into most phones. So I had bought this little Garmin little external device. So I was playing around with that, lap times and stuff. So it was kind of fun to just, session by session, see the lap times coming down a little bit here and there. Still nothing to brag about. I had done a little Google to see what was considered good lap times at that track, and I'm not even close, so I won't say what my lap time was. But still, it was kind of fun.
Are we talking hours or minutes?
No, we're talking half a minute's off. Off like, I think. I don't remember exactly. I think like a good lap time was like a minute 37, a minute 47, something like that. And I was over 2 minutes. I was on a rented Ninja 400 again, so it's not the same as being on one of the fast leader bikes or whatever. But anyway, it was a ton of fun. It's kind of interesting to just because in addition to tracking the lap time, it also tracks your route around the track. And the software, all these like software apps, they have these libraries of all kinds of tracks around the world. And fortunately, New York Safety Track is one of the ones in the library. But it's interesting just to actually trace, your path around the track and see, are you consistent through a particular turn? Are you changing your line or whatever? And how does that relate to the lap time? So that was kind of fun.
Can you compare your track to other riders or to, the expert riders?
There's the app that I'm using, I did not see a feature like that, although you can enter a reference lap. I don't I guess at least you can take one of your pre-recorded laps. I don't know if there's the ability to import someone else's, but that'd be kind of interesting. Yeah, to do a track day like at a track that the Motor America does or something like that, and see or MotoGP, see
how your lines compare to
how
the
your
experts.
lines vary and trap times or whatever. But yeah, so all right, so that's kind of cool. And then 2 weekends ago, I got in a group ride, which is really nice. On Saturday, rode with a bunch of people from Long Island up to the Catskills, which was kind of cool because it was a well, I was going to say good mix of bikes. There was 3 Harleys and I was one of 5 Kawasaki's. So at least to me, that's kind of a mix. We had Harleys and Kawasaki's, but so that was a ton of fun. And it was interesting because even though per the weather predictions, it looked like it wasn't going to rain, we ended up with rain for the most of the way up into the Catskills, which is kind of interesting because I remember a bunch of episodes ago, I had asked you guys for opinions on, like rain gear and stuff like that. And it turns out I actually have decent stuff already, because as I was planning for what to wear for the ride, and I'm like, it might rain, but it might not, whatever. I ended up, have a pair of these Oxford, riding pants. Basically, they're meant for cooler weather riding. They've got like a insulated liner, which I took out, but they actually were great. They didn't leak, no water got in those. And then the jacket, I have a Sedici jacket I wore, which also says it's waterproof, and it did the job. The only thing I had a problem with was gloves. My waterproof gloves soaked up water like a sponge, so that's the only thing. That's the only thing I have to address. But I was pleasantly surprised because I was comfortable for the ride. The weather was like mid to upper 50s, something like that. Actually, well, maybe low to mid 50s, but yeah, so it's comfortable. I just had the stuff on from the get-go. I was concerned I'd be too warm, which I wasn't. Once it started raining, I was fine because these guys weren't going to stop. It's like, well, actually, the guy that was leading most of the ride on Harley, I don't know, it was like a Heritage or something like that. Anyway, it was like a cruiser, no bags or anything. He was basically riding, jeans and like a leather jacket, and that was his get up, and he just toughed it out in the rain, so no windshield or anything like that. So that was kind of cool. And then yesterday I just decided to get out, took a ride up to Connecticut just to see what kind of colors are up there. So that was fun. That was about 140 miles round trip. So it was nice to just get out.
Were the fall colors good?
They were pretty good. I mean, there was a lot of areas. It was weird. I don't know if you have this by you. There's a lot of sections where the trees were bare. Yeah. I guess it just has to do one with variety of trees, but then also, I guess you go between, like into lower areas up to mountaintops or whatever. I guess the weather patterns vary or whatever, but then it got into some sections that had these beautiful like trees, brilliant reds and yellows. It was like really pretty. So it was nice. I was started at Merritt Parkway through Connecticut. It basically parallels I-95, but it's the more scenic way to go. So, it's very hilly. You've got like, rocks off in the distance. You get the hills, the trees, the whole thing. So yeah, so it was really nice. So it was good to get out. Very, very therapeutic, as you guys know.
Yeah. Well, sounds great. Yeah. And Kev, how about you?
Well, I had a very interesting weekend. This weekend, the state program for MSF actually had a rider coach prep class, and they asked me if I would come by and kind of help pretty much put on a BRC, but for the coach candidates. And it was interesting because normally we're having to pick up cones and do all that other stuff, but they need to learn how to put the range down. So after we did the first exercise yesterday, I didn't have to pick down and put up a cone. And, it had a good time meeting the guys, all great potential candidates there. I think they all will do a great job, but it was just kind of real neat for me to be on the other side of that process and be able to, Rick, the kind of director of the Alabama Traffic and Safety Center, he let me give coaching tips in real world, just like, hey, this is something you need to watch out for. And, and as well as coach them, because a lot of them still have, a couple things that you might want to fine tune to be able to perform that perfect demo that we try to do. But it was a lot of fun getting to talk to those guys and see how things, are behind the scenes. And hey, we need to run this. Here we're going to do this a few laps. I'm going to, and he would do things to expedite it. We would skip sections and reading instructions, and there'll be more talk on coaching strategy for this, or the perfect demo. What does it look like versus just kind of going through the course? So they kind of got it from both sides there. And I remember that when I went through it, it was just, it's completely rushed. And I had a lot of fun. Rode out there. The morning rides started off, I think yesterday was in the low 50s. And by the end of the day, it was comfortable riding back. Today was even better. I think it was mid 50s when I left the house, maybe upper 50 area. And I was comfortable because I got my heated vest and gloves, or jacket and gloves. And so I kind of hooked all that up during the week and was able to use that, and it all worked. So yay. And, it was a good thing. And I'm really hoping that heated gear lets me ride further. Well, not ride further into the winter, because I usually ride year round, but ride during colder times, and make more use of it. So I really enjoyed it. Today actually was really fun because at lunch, the range was kind of clear. They were setting up for the last kind of skills practice before the evaluation. And, I was able to get out and kind of just tool around on my GS on the range, so I'd work the box, different kind of, weaves, and, I did all the evaluation, just, you learn what that is. And then after we got through, the guy who was, coaching with me, he was also, they were inside doing more rider coach prep stuff. And then he was like, hey, I may take my bike out there. So we kind of tooled around for another 30 minutes. So I got an hour's worth of just practice on the GS, just the slow maneuverings. I was trying to do a 16-foot circle with the GS, and I was able to get that one in. And, just creating my own challenges with the GS. I was surprised because usually I do better on tight circles to the right than the left. I guess I'm becoming like everybody else in the world, and left is better than right for me. So I was having a hard time doing. I was able to get a 20-foot U-turn, 20-foot circle as I was, trying to really work on that angle, but I couldn't really get it tighter than that. I know what I need to do, just getting myself to do it. But I had a ton of fun, rode back. I think I had like 210 miles for the weekend, not counting whatever I did on the range. So it was a lot of fun. And I told him, I was like, hey, if you ever need me to do this again, this is awesome. I ain't got to walk around and throw down cones and pick up cones. I just sit down and be like, yeah, you guys messed up over here. Fix it. I like that. So, but that was my riding experience this week.
Nice.
All right, let's go ahead.
No, I said it sounds like fun.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, anytime you can get out and practice, and especially with a bunch of guys like that. I mean, two of the guys I have met before, briefly, but they're great guys. The other four seemed like really, really nice, good guys. Had great conversation. They were asking awesome questions, and coming up, and the funny thing is different people would have different versions of the cards. In the 2018 version, the 2015 version, there's minor differences, but some of them are enough to where you learn to do it a certain way, and you've got other sets of cards that tell you to do it a certain way. Then you pick up these older cards and you're like, yeah, you do it this way. And you're like, the card doesn't say this. And I look at my cards and it doesn't say this. And then somebody else is like, well, mine do. And so we're trying to, figuring out, well, what date do you have if we need to change our cards? Because when they do update them, you don't get another one. You got to reorder them. So just something coaches got to stay on top of. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. All right, so let's dive into the news. But before we do that, let's give a little bit of acknowledgement to our Throttle crew members. These are the ladies and gentlemen that help us keep the show on the air. Them and their families donating a little bit every month to keep the show going, and I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. We told you last week at our 250 number that we wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for our crew members. It wouldn't be feasible at this point. So we really appreciate everything that these unique individuals do to help the show out. You guys are awesome. If you're interested in joining the Throttled crew and becoming a supporter of the show, if you get some value out of it and want to give back a little bit, go to the website, throttledpodcast.com. Scroll to the bottom, click on the Patreon logo. Every dollar helps. Every $10 helps $10 more. But, and I say that in jest, we love everybody that comes onto it, and just appreciate everybody's willingness to support the show. So, give that a thought if you would. We'd appreciate it. Outside of that, I think we're ready to move on to some news for the day. Let's start. Speaking, we have a Kawasaki owner in the house. Let's start with the cat.
Two.
Actually, there you go.
Yeah, well, he's a owner with two Kawasaki's.
No, I have a Kawasaki.
See, I still think of you as having the Harley. Okay, I forgot about that.
That's
Sorry.
way behind. That's way behind me.
I know it is. Isn't that sad?
I moved. There is some loss, but there's also gain. Moved on to other things.
So, on the Kawasaki, then I will let you two gentlemen open this segment up. So, what is going on with said Kawasaki motorcycles? Well,
I don't know, Chris, if you've seen this news item, but earlier this week, there was a report that the Kawasaki Heavy Industries, and then this is the parent company of Kawasaki motorcycles, who says that it will be spinning off its, quote, struggling, unquote, motorcycle and engine businesses next year as part of a major restructuring. And it says that it plans to spin off its motorcycle manufacturing and sales division and also a rolling stock division, which has to do with trains. Now, Kawasaki Heavy Industries is a huge company, apparently, and they build all sorts of huge things, turbines and trains and, and bulldozers and cranes, all sorts of very big, heavy machinery. And the motorcycling part of their company is a very small part of the company, actually. So it's not quite clear whether this spinning off is an attempt to improve and support the motorcycle division, or whether it's a prelude to trying to separate it and sell it off. Kawasaki says that it hopes that the move will speed up decision-making and improve its financial situation. So presumably the implication there is that making changes in the lineup and adding features and so on to the motorcycles, if you have to go through the whole big company, it can be take a while, too long, and be overladen with the bureaucracy of this huge company. A smaller division, they're hoping, would be more nimble. On the other hand, motorcycle sales have been hurting, and it could be simply an attempt of the company to cut its losses. I've seen debate on both sides of this, and it's not yet clear what the company really has in mind. But the hope is that spinning the business off will make it more nimble and progressive, and perhaps and be to its advantage. That will remain to be seen. So I don't know. The question is this going to be a boon to the brand, or is this the beginning of the end? What do you think, Chris?
That's a good question. I had seen this. I didn't read this particular article yet. don't know. A thought that comes to mind is, given how big Kawasaki Heavy Industries is, I doubt Kawasaki motorcycles. I mean, maybe if you can combine everything, watercraft and the side by sides and whatever is somewhat substantial, but I don't know. I haven't looked at their financials, but I doubt it was anything compared to what the overall revenue of the company is. So the fact that it not doing well was hurting the company, I kind of tend to doubt. But what I do wonder is if there's been some change in management, maybe there was someone on some board of directors or something who, was a motorcycle fan or motorcycle racing fan. And that's kind of why, Kawasaki kicked money towards the motorcycle division. And maybe that's changed. I have no idea, just speculation. But like I said, it remains to be seen. If it's Kawasaki Heavy Industries just not being interested anymore, then unless somebody kind of jumps in and really takes the reins, it could kind of die off. But we do know that smaller companies can operate more nimbly and, like you said, make decisions faster and whatnot. So, I mean, I don't know. I tend to doubt that decisions about the motorcycles was going all the way up the chain of command, to the people who are dealing with tanker ships and
bullet trains,
and bullet trains and whatever. So I don't know how much that's really going to matter anyway. But let's put. I guess in summary, I hope it's a good thing for Kawasaki. As you know, I'm a Kawasaki fan, so I hope it just makes them stronger. I definitely would not want to see a brand disappear. But yeah, I guess we'll have to keep up on this one.
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind as well, as while yes, they may not be like, hey, we're going to bring out this new motorcycle, but budgets are set at that higher level. And so those budgets basically is a hard and fast cap on, and a lot of times there may be itemized. Hey, we're going to give you this much for R&D, this much for marketing.
Right.
And they may need more flexibility. What I'm really hoping this is that they spin off the Kawasaki Motor Company, or Kawasaki Motors. That's its own thing, with the larger company having a minority stake. So meaning that they have a seat at the table, but they're not, and they get a good cut of the profits. Most likely is how that will happen. But the company is able to work independently with only a little guidance from the parent company. I have a feeling that's what we're really looking at here. That way they're able to make decisions, structure their own budgets, do all these other things that's going to help them out. And, because if you look at Kawasaki, they are very reactionary, right? Truthfully, do they have a pure adventure bike? I don't think you could count the Versus.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
So, and then you start looking at some of their dual sport bikes.
I disagree. I think you can make the Versus into a reasonable off-road. It may not quite come off the floor that way, but with the aftermarket parts and stuff.
Well, but okay, but I could do that for any bike, right? But I'm saying a true, like, hey, you could take this, maybe change the tires, and you could do this. The seat may not be comfortable. You may want to change it, but usually most bikes you could take them off, put some engine guards on them, change the tires, and you're able to do something, right? And you're not too worried about it. I don't know if the Versus, skid plates too, but I don't know if the Versus is built with that in mind. Like if you look at the T700, the Tenere, they have a leg off-road in some of their designs. When I look at the Versus, I look at it as being, hey, this is a bike, and I'm not blaming the Versus at all. The Versus at one point was a very attractive bike to me. It's like, this is a bike that gets the comfort of the adventure bike, ergonomics. Because a lot of people don't like the sport touring ergonomics, so they're leaned over a little bit. This is more sitting upright, but they've totally eliminated the off-road portion of it. And now, granted, like you said, you could bolt on a ton of stuff and make it totally capable.
Right.
You know, I mean, they bolted on a ton of crap to a live wire and made it a decently capable, you know, light adventure bike, right? So, you know, that's just something to take into consideration there. I really think that a lot of this has been restricted by budget. You look at their KLX, you know, they redid that, and when it came out, it kind of was like okay, this is close, but not quite what needed to be done. And then you look at like what Yamaha did with a T7 and forever, which we hold that against them, but they spent a lot of money and time tuning that bike to what they think it needed to be. You look at what Honda did with the Africa Twin, same thing. Now, I know I'm focusing on one segment, but I think this applies to all the brands' motorcycles at this point. If you're not taking the time and the money to create, you're just kind of re-releasing the same thing, hoping it keeps going, right? Suzuki's a similar criminal in this kind of conversation, because they just kind of, I mean, if it wasn't for the DR650, what will we talk about Suzuki-wise on a dual sport off-road thing? Now, granted, they all have their street bikes and they all have different things that work for them, but we all know the most popular segments right now are the dual sport and adventure segment, and it seems like these two companies are just kind of resting on the laurels on what they've already got. You know.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. It's been a while since Kawasaki's upgraded several of its lines, the Concourse, you know, Vulcan, and the Versus really is clearly designed as basically an on-road tourer with, you know, some light off-road capability. And, you know, of course they do have pure off-road bikes and, you know, some good dual sport, like the KLR 650s and stuff, right? So, but those, I don't know how recently those have been upgraded. And I would say that Suzuki and Kawasaki are kind of guilty of resting on their laurels in those particular lines.
Yeah, and I said KLX earlier, and I meant to say KLX and KLR.
Mm-hmm.
So just because they did come out, I think, with the KLR 250. Was it a 400? I think it was a 250, and KLX. It looks awesome, but you know, a lot of people are just like, you know, the WR still has a beat. You know, it made improvements. Don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of people still prefer the WR, and it's like, hey, you guys had time to get it nailed. So I keep receiving an error from YouTube saying that our stream quality is going down. I don't know what's going on, if it's internet related or YouTube related. So hopefully that shakes out for you guys. I apologize if it's glitchy or whatnot. So give it a few minutes and it's been coming back. It's happened a few times. So apologize for that. Anyway, back to this. Hopefully though, back to the main part of the story, they're able to spin it off. I definitely want the brand to be around. I think competition is good. It's healthy, but you have to be willing to compete. And I think that them being able to be in control of their own destiny, sink or swim. And that's probably what this company's doing. It's saying, hey, you guys are going to sink or swim on your own. You keep telling us we're handcuffing you. We'll let you do your own thing, and it's on you. So we'll see. All right. Anybody, you guys got any final comments on it?
No, I just
Nope.
I just point out that Rodney says that the Versus is good for paved roads that aren't maintained. Sonic's brought that up, and you know, the real off-road will max the suspension. So, I think that's true.
And well, you know, and I think that's where a lot of these bikes have their shortcomings. It's in the suspension, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even bikes that are like, hey, this is an adventure bike or this is a dual sport bike. If you're 150 pounds, yes, it is. You know, if you're a more modern sized Westerner, American, fat Alabamian, however you want to put it, you know, you're going to sit on that thing and it's going to be crying. And especially when you get into washboards and stuff like that, you're just beating the mess out of it. So anyway, so which I'll let you guys choose. We can do the Alpine Stars Crash.
Well, we could do that quickly because I just noted it as a follow-up sort of to our discussion last week with Tom about his review of the Klein vest that the airbag vest that he had recently purchased. And I saw this review. This is a review of the Alpine Stars Tech Air 5 airbag vest system, and very similar to the vest that Tom was describing. It fits under your garments. It can fit under any garment. It's an electronic system and so on. But I thought it was just timely that there was yet another mention of airbag vests, and this rider who unfortunately had been in a pretty bad accident wearing the vest and came out completely unscathed, and he flipped over the bike and the car and sailed through the air, and he describes how he felt the airbag inflate as he was sailing through the air. So his conclusion was that just as with this helmet, he wouldn't go out riding without it. And that's a sentiment that I would echo and encourage others to consider.
Yeah, right. I think it's a great technology. I have not really started my research yet, but I'm thinking about investing in some kind of airbag device for my track days, starting next season. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see this stuff. It's become pretty commonplace now, like in Moto America racing. It's been mandatory, I think, since last season in MotoGP.
That's right.
And you see it definitely helps. I mean, some of these guys go through some wicked crashes, and it definitely that doesn't always save the broken bones and whatever, depending on the nature of the crash and how they crash, but definitely helps.
Yep.
And it is always interesting after a crash to see them, get up and stand up, which is always a good thing, right? You want to see the rider walk away, but they're usually all puffed up, kind of like
that's right,
kind of like the kid from Christmas Story or whatever, it's all padded out.
I can't put my arms down.
Yeah, there you go. I forgot the line. There you go.
So anyway, that's it. That's all I wanted to mention about it. The tech system, he liked and validated the Alpine Stars particular system, but it was the more general conclusion that I wanted to echo.
Yeah, the climb system that you mentioned that Tom purchased, is that an electronic system or is that tethered?
No, it's electronic. Yeah. Cool.
I'll have to listen to that episode.
Yeah.
If somebody could ever get it published for you, feel free to.
There you go.
It is on YouTube, and that's one thing. Hey,
yes,
point out to everybody.
It's really good. Yep.
It's if the person on the show that's responsible for getting the shows out on iTunes and everything, doesn't get around to it, and slacking a lot. It's always, the shows are on YouTube as soon as we air them. I mean, they're 5 minutes after we hit the in stream button, they're usually there ready for your consumption. So, and
they're raw too. So
yeah. And most of our shows I don't do too much on them just because I feel like it should be an accurate representation of what happened on the show. So you get it warts and all, unlike other shows that take a lot of time to pretty it up. I never get a show out, to be honest with you. So let's transition to the Harley Davidson Motor Company. We learned a lot of information about Harley, some of which is framed in a positive light, which I really don't think is positive news. When you look at the way the cookie is crumbling. The other part of it is no news on stuff that we didn't figure we'd actually get news on because speculation is not good. And then a little bit of stuff about e-bikes. Those things. I say that for Larry's benefit.
Yes. I never want to talk about e-bikes, but I will if you insist.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to give you the opportunity, my friend. I promised you last week. I'm going to deliver on my promise. All right. So, and everybody watching this, I'm sorry for having to look over. My monitor died, so I'm having to like strain to see anything. So Harley Davidson came out and said, "Hey, total revenue was 1.17 billion for the quarter, and while this is down 8.4%, it's actually a net income of 120 million, which is almost a 40% increase over this quarter the year previous." And everybody's like, "Yay, Harley's on the right track." And I'm looking at it and saying, are they? Because they put in a ton of cost savings and cost cutting strategies in place. They're still selling less bikes. They're selling a lot less of their expensive bikes. Yeah, they showed revenue and income, but it really didn't seem. I mean, it's a short term time. It's giving them time, I guess is what I'll say. It's giving them time to try to figure it out more, which is good. But the numbers are still going in the wrong direction. And net income is good to have, but after a while, once that revenue keeps dropping and those bike sales keep dropping, the net income is not going to be able to continue to support that. Because it'll start going back down too. So we just have a temporary, I guess, delay in what's going on there. So let's cover that section first, and then we'll get into the other news for Harley. So what do you guys think about their numbers that they released?
Chris, what do you think?
I'm trying to find the numbers in the article. So while I'm doing
okay,
that,
all right. Well, I think that the sentiment that I gathered from reading some of the reviews of this announcement is that it's really a short term attempt to pump up the company by as you said, Kevin, cutting costs and also increasing the prices of the bikes that they are selling. They're not cutting the prices as much as they were before. I didn't know that they were cutting them a lot before, but apparently they were. So the cost of the bikes that they're selling off the floor, new bikes, and also the prices on used bikes are going up as well. And part of this is part of their design, because they're also limiting the number of bikes in the pipeline that are available, as well as we know they're cutting back on the models that are going to be available. So they're trying to strive for, quote, greater desirability, unquote, rather than just pure market share. So my feeling is that the numbers are kind of a result of sort of efforts to pump up the price and the revenue short term, and that this is not going to be the solution long term. And there are other things to look at in terms of what the company's been announcing, which we can mention in a minute. But that's my take on it. Chris, you have any other thoughts?
No, nothing in particular. I mean, it's just interesting to see that, they mentioned that there was a slight increase in Harley sales in Europe. I don't know. I'm guessing number of units is nothing compared to what they sell in the U.S., but that is interesting.
Yeah, it's not, and they're also discontinuing the Sportster in Europe, and I expect that will be a substantial cut in what they sell overseas, since small displacement bikes are sort of the name of the game there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it still looks like the Bronx is not going to be coming out anytime soon. That was the name for their Street Fighter bike. That displacement market has dropped below 50% in the U.S. It's down to 49.8%, which granted is pretty close.
Yeah.
But it's still. I'm sorry. The 49.8% was the third quarter of last year. This year, the third quarter, it was down to 41.4%. So it has dropped, significantly. but they're arguing that Zeitz is arguing that he's striving not for market share but for exclusivity and desirability, and his strategic plan is to simplify the lineup, make fewer options available, and manage inventory to keep selling prices up. And all of that seems to me kind of like short-term stuff. The other speculation that goes around a lot is that maybe they're pumping up the company in order to sell it off and make it more desirable to buyers. And so that's a question. The other thing is that Harley is retreating globally. They're planning to withdraw from 40 markets around the world. And so, one advantage of that is that they're going to be narrowing their focus, perhaps increasing their advertising in those areas and promotion in those areas that they're focusing on. But one of the markets that Harley is exiting is India, and that's the largest motorcycle market in the world right now. So it's kind of surprising, especially since they had an agreement with one of the Indian motorcycle companies to sell a motorcycle branded bike. But it's not clear what's going to happen with that either. Harley will continue, apparently, to sell its bikes and service them through an Indian company called Hero Motocorp. So you will be able to get service for bikes that if you have one over there. And lastly, they mentioned that they're going to be restructuring their electric bicycle division, and they have previewed their Serial One e-bicycle, and it's now called, the brand is Serial One. It says they're spinning this off, sort of like Kawasaki was doing with their motorcycle division. Harley is doing that with their electric bike division. And they will say that they will call them Serial One bikes powered by Harley Davidson. The Zeiss is saying that this will give them, quote, measured participation in the e-bicycle market while maintaining clear focus on key motorcycle elements, unquote. And I don't know, that seems to me to be business speak for saying that they're spinning off the division because they're not interested in e-bikes. And it's funny, they use the same terminology, that it will allow Serial One to operate more independently and, quote, stay agile, unquote. Very similar to the Kawasaki.
Kawasaki, yeah.
So without, quote, risking brand dilution, unquote, on the part of Harley Davidson. And I think that means that they don't want to piss off their motorcycle aficionados. So it's all very uncertain at this point, and I'm not terribly encouraged by the news. But time will tell, and the proof will be in the future. That's it. Any other thoughts you guys have?
What do you think, Chris?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. I mean, in some ways, things we've talked about, regarding Harley seems innovative. It seems like good things happening, with the electric motorcycle, and the bicycles and the whole thing. But then on the other hand, it just sounds like they're all over the place, kind of. It's like I'm not what is Harley? I don't even know anymore. Now they've got, I knew what Harley was, kind of, quote unquote, at one time, even though I've never been a Harley aficionado. But now, it's like they got the adventure bike and the Street Fighter, that maybe that's not going to happen, and they've got bicycles and all this kind of stuff. It's like, it's almost like. Like the shotgun approach, or you just throw things up against the wall and see what sticks.
Well, I'll tell you my opinion of Harley right now.
What is your opinion?
My opinion is this: Harley was heading in the direction that all motorcycle enthusiasts wanted it to be. Harley is now heading in the direction that all of its stockholders want it to be. And that's just plain and simple. Everybody in the motorcycle world said, I wouldn't mind having a Harley. I just don't want those kind of bikes, or I don't want that, big heavy bike, or, they really should appeal to the other demographics that are out there. And when Harley started coming out with those, they were praised within the motorcycle community and media highly.
This is true.
Now, who didn't like that idea? The stockholders, because, hey, if you're trying to do all this stuff, it's really hard to cut cost, and everything's still going down. Now, that brings me back to the numbers earlier. We've done all this restructuring. We've refocused on the main Harley brand. We've kind of tried to go after those, tough and gristle Harley riders who are our core audience, and they know what they get from us, and we're still not selling any bikes. Yeah, we showed a profit because we got rid of a lot of the cost, because we're not investing in crap anymore. Well, we got this e-bike that was too far along, or maybe we had an agreement with somebody that we had to produce a minimum amount of them to be able to use part of their technology manufacturing structure, and we've already got the deals in place. So we'll just do what we did with, Buell, and we'll create them, we'll put them in a corner. They're technically not Harley Davidson because we're going to be made by this other company, and just use our technology as a cop-out to say that, well, our stuff didn't fail, their stuff failed. That's not our fault. They're their own thing. They're setting that up to fail. Honestly, I've heard really good things about the Pan American as an adventure bike. But I don't know if I would trust Harley Davidson to keep it around long enough to make it better. To support it, to be there when I had issues with it. And for third party to invest enough in it to make the proper gear and upgrades for it. I don't know if I trust them enough to do that. So the only way I'd get a Pan American is if you gave it to me. I'd take it. I'd be happy to have it, test it out, ride on it. But I would not spend my money on it just because I don't believe Harley's going to be smart enough to keep it around. The Bronx is an excellent bike. Anybody that's ridden the Live Wire, one of the things they say is this is a fun bike to ride. Have you looked at the Bronx and the Live Wire and how similar they are? Maybe when we were saying we would really like an engine version of this bike, and everybody like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Harley at the time listened. Shocker. But now we don't know about the Bronx because it's not a true Harley. That's the electric version. It's the future, and we got these other things, and these things in the middle that probably people would love. We're not going to spend money on them because then that's going to hurt our profit and our income. And that income, while yes, I agree, all businesses must have it, you got to play the long game here, and they're not. I unfortunately am starting to become one of the people in the camp that say that they're trying to sell the company. I don't want to say that. I really hope I'm wrong, and I wish it isn't true. But I don't see anything that they're doing to not make this somewhat approachable to outside third parties to take it over. And it's a shame because so much history, and we've already been through this with Harley before, and we saw what happened, and it's going to happen again. I just hope whoever buys it is an American company and can keep everything in America and do like Polaris and Indian. I don't know.
But Polaris is a big company that has lots of, funds and resources and doesn't depend on their motorcycle division.
Yeah, and I don't know. Honestly, I could see an Amazon or an Apple or somebody stupid like that that's got no business buying it, picking it up. Actually, those two companies are going to be too smart to do it, but I could see something that's we really shouldn't be doing this, but we're going to do it anyway because we think we can make changes.
Well, you might be onto something because, right, we're going to colonize the moon eventually. We're going to need motorcycles on the moon, right? So
Absolutely.
maybe SpaceX buys Harley.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Tesla's already mentioned. I mean, Elon Musk has already mentioned that he has no interest in motorcycles
true.
since he had his accident when he was younger, and now he's scared to death of them. And I'm just like, wuss. But it's just one of those things of, okay, I respect his opinion there, but to say we're not investing in that market at all because of personal feelings, but that's Elon Musk, right? And he has every right to do that. And apparently he makes enough decisions to be one of the richest people in the world. And apparently to have some kind of weird fandom that I don't quite understand. Anyway, let's
see. It's interesting to follow this. I have to admit that it does make the whole field lively watching the machinations that are going on with Harley Davidson.
Well, let's ask our listeners, guys and ladies, what do you think about this Harley situation? What do you think about the Versus? Is it an off-road bike? Is it not an off-road bike? What do you think about anything we've talked about today? Do us a favor, write into the show, feedback at throttledpodcast.com, or go to the website, throttledpodcast.com. Click on that contact tab. We get it in the same mailbox. We would love to hear your opinions and your thoughts on it. All right. Now.
Well, I should mention that our chat room is going on this topic, and Lloyd has pointed out that the most likely moon motorcycle will come from zero because there's no potato in a vacuum. And
I'm too tired.
Well, you do know they're planning to create an artificial atmosphere, right?
Oh, terraforming the moon would take centuries. In the meantime, there's no potato in a vacuum.
Or potato. Anyway, so let's move on to the paddock.
Sure.
Do we have both groups going, or is it just a Larry show tonight? I can't remember.
Well, Chris has something to say about Moto America, and then I'll cover the MotoGP.
Chris, what do you have to say about Moto America?
Good. So, well, unfortunately, Moto America is done for the season, but I thought I would just kind of say it isn't so. But I thought I would just kind of, mention some of how it wrapped up and whatnot. So, Moto America's last round was 2 weekends ago. That I was at Laguna Seca. There was no spectators, I guess, just being, in California, right? Everything that's going on with COVID and whatnot, and things are still fairly locked down. Although it was interesting that camping is allowed at the facility, so people who were camping were able to see the races. So, whatever, take that as you will. I don't know if anyone had a chance to check it out, but they did the first round. They'll be continuing this next year. The first round of the King of the Baggers. So they actually had Harleys and Indian Challengers running around Laguna Seca Raceway, going down the corkscrew and whatever.
We covered that. We covered that race last week.
Okay,
fun.
Yeah, I didn't listen into that one. So that was kind of cool to see. It was interesting too. JD Beach was racing in Super Sport at Laguna Seca, so he was back for a round. Although his main thing has been American Flat Track. I assume that's going to be the same thing next season, but I guess that remains to be seen. But in terms of how things ended up, I know I've mentioned some of these already because some of the championships were clinched kind of early on before the final round of Moto America. But so Bobier did win his 5th Superbike title this year. And I don't know if you guys spoke about it yet. He is off to race in Moto 2 next season with the American Racing Team.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So he's going to be replacing Joe Roberts, who's moving on to another Moto 2 team. But so that should be really interesting. So he'll be racing with Yamaha. Stock 1000, Cam Peterson took that championship, actually a race or two also before the end of the championship season. He also took the Superbike Cup. So the guys that were racing in Stock 1000 had the option to also run in the Superbike races so that they could get points in both races. So he was pretty busy. He was running the Stock 1000 and the Superbike races each weekend. So he tied those up. I actually, a couple episodes ago, I did an interview with Melissa Paris, who's the crew chief for Cam Peterson. So anyone interested, check that out. Richie Escalante won the Supersport Championship. The talk is he most likely is going to be offered a Superbike ride for next season, so that will be interesting to see, probably with Honos Kawasaki. Rocco Landers, very interestingly, won 2 championships. So he won Junior Cup again, and he won the Twins Cup championship. It's going to be interesting to see next year in Twins Cup because, I follow a lot of the Twins Cup racers on Facebook and whatnot. And, Aprilia has come out with the 660, which qualifies for Twins Cup. And there's a couple guys already have sold either their Suzuki SV650s or their Yamaha MT-07s or whatever. And so it looks like some of the guys are going to be switching to the Aprilia. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you probably talked about Garrett Gerloff. Actually, no, that's right.
No.
It just happened for this weekend. So are you going to talk about Garrett Gerloff? Because I won't go into it if.
No.
Right. So the whole thing with Valentino Rossi, right? He was diagnosed with COVID.
Yes.
Right. So basically, Garrett Gerloff. If Rossi was not able to race this weekend, Garrett Gerloff
was going to
ride his bike, and so he actually rode in the first 2 free practices.
Yes, he did.
On Rossi's bike, which was really cool to see. He got a lot of coverage, even though he's not going to get to race because, as far as I know, I didn't watch the races this weekend. But Rossi was cleared to race, and I believe he got on the bike in free practice 3.
He did.
But, yeah. But that was really cool. I saw a couple interviews with Gerloff. He evidently made quite a splash in the MotoGP paddock. So that bodes well. As far as I know, he's going to be racing with World Superbike again next season, but maybe he's, warming up for a MotoGP ride. So that'll be really cool to watch.
That would be.
And I know I saw a little video where, that was captioned something like Rossi says, thank you for treating my bike so nicely or something like that. It was kind of interesting. And I just was looking at the Moto America website before. They've already announced the 2021 calendar. So they've got 8 rounds announced. I'm hoping they're going to be putting COTA on the calendar, but that's not yet one of them. But they've got Georgia, Virginia, Wisconsin, Washington, California, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Alabama. So anyone's interested in watching Moto America live, hopefully we're going to be past some of this virus stuff, and it'll be easier to watch races and whatnot. But yeah, it should be really cool. It's really interesting to see that Moto America is succeeding. When the group that took over, right, including I can't think of his name right, Wayne Rainey. Like that group, when they took over, the AMA Superbike Series and Moto America was formed, clearly one of their goals was to help get racers promoted to the world stage. And we definitely see that happening. So, and it's been happening slowly over a couple of years, but now, you got Garrett Gerloff was racing World Superbike, got Cameron Bobier going over there, although the talk was maybe he was too comfortable here and he was going to stay racing in the US. You got Rocco Landers, right, who made his appearance in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, which was really cool. So a lot of good stuff going on. So yeah, definitely looking forward to more exciting things with Moto America.
Sounds great. They do a number of races on the MotoGP tracks, don't they?
Moto America?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Texas, right? So they've raced a COTA.
No, I was thinking, or is it World Superbike that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, World Superbike.
Yeah.
Actually, occasionally they will race with MotoGP at the same time. I don't think that's that common, but but World Superbike, yes, they do race at quite a few of the same tracks.
Ah. Well, sounds great. Looking forward to next season, Chris. And we're kind of winding up the MotoGP season this year, and this was the third to the last race held this weekend at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia, Spain. And youngsters once again had a lot to say in this race. The pole position went to Pol Espargaro. As we know, he's on the factory KTM. Alex Rins in second on Suzuki. A fairly young new rider as well. And Tako Nakagami on third place showed again well in the competition for the pole position. He is riding in third place. Second row consisted of Johan Zarco, Alex Mir, Mir and Alex Espargaro on an Aprilia in the final position in the second row. Unfortunately, the mainstays that we are accustomed to hearing, Quartararo, for instance, and Dovizioso, back in 11th and 12th place. Rossi qualified even further back, and as you said, Chris, he actually was only able to ride the last leg of the qualifying, and Maverick had to start from the paddock, and due to what has proven to be a rather interesting problem that Yamaha has had, they apparently had problems with the some of the valves in their engines, and they were defectively manufactured, and so they were they were blowing engines left and right, and they were trying to get these valves changed. And they unfortunately, there is a rule in MotoGP that once the engines are introduced and reviewed, they can no longer be modified in any way to improve performance. Well, the Yamaha was arguing that changing defective valves was not an attempt to improve performance, but just to keep the engines functioning. However, ultimately, the leadership in MotoGP ruled that they were wrong in putting in new valves without explicitly getting permission to do so, and so they were penalized. And in addition to that, they ended up having to open up a sixth engine for Maverick Vinales to ride in the race today, and they are allotted only 5 engines for the season. This came about apparently as cost cutting after the market crash in 2007. And so they instituted a lot of cost cutting things. And one of them was that the manufacturers were only allowed to have 5 engines for a season. And so that's another problem. And as we'll see, it became a problem for Rossi potentially today as well. So Vinales started from the paddock, which meant that he was in last place and behind by quite a few seconds when the race began. And on the other hand, in the front, Espargaro took the lead from the beginning. He had a great start, and Rins was on his tail in second, and Taki Nakagami in third place, and Mir was in the group as well. After leading for the first few laps, Espargaro, who was riding the factory KTM, and had really been motivated to win the race. He's become close a number of times, and he is really hoping to get a GP win this year. So this race, he was particularly focused on winning. As we said, he got the pole. He was in front at the beginning, but he lost the lead to Rins in the first few laps, who rode the race on the same Suzuki with his usual smooth riding style. It's really fun to watch him. His consistency and the smoothness, aided and abetted by the fact that the Suzukis have such good cornering ability and are able to keep the tire traction up while they keep the tire wear down. So Mir moved up from 4th into 2nd place as the race progressed, and he remained within striking distance of his teammate. And although they are teammates, there's apparently not much love lost between them. And so it was anybody's guess as to whether Mir was going to make a move for first place. And indeed he did. With 11 laps to go, he moved past Rins, who went wide on one of the turns, and he went on to a well-deserved victory. He also was consistent in his lap times. He and Rins had some of the fastest lap times in the race. And his victory gives him a 37-point lead in the championship over his next second place competitor, which is his teammate Rins. So Rossi had engine problems, had to drop out of the race, and he's going to have the same problem that Vinales had, which is, are they going to be able to fix his engine and let him finish the season on it, or will they have to open up a new engine and he will be penalized for it? Quartararo, trying to avoid a falling Alicia Espargaro on the Aprilia, went down as well early on in the race, but he was able to get back on his bike and finish the race. And I think he managed to get some race points for finishing. But he lost any chance of catching Mir, short of a miracle in the last two races. And Espargaro did run a good race, and he managed to finish on the podium in third place, and will have to continue his hunt for a MotoGP victory. This is I think, the 10th or 11th different rider to win a race this year, making this a very unpredictable and fun to watch racing season. So next week we will return to Valencia for the 14th and the next to last race of the season, so don't miss it. It's going to be fun. And that's it for MotoGP this week.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both. You do such an excellent job. I really appreciate all the work that you guys do in the paddock. So remember, you can follow us at Twitter at Throttle Show, Instagram Throttle Show, Facebook Throttle Podcast. I mentioned earlier the feedback at throttlepodcast.com, or go to the contact tab on the website. And we do broadcast live on YouTube most Sundays at 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific. About 15 minutes prior to the show, we post those links up on our Twitter and Facebook page. And we would love for you to go out to however you're consuming the show and give us a 5-star rating. We really appreciate it. And if there's a platform that you would like us to be on that we're not currently on, please let us know and we'll look into it. I think that's covered everything. Big thank you out to our patrons again. You guys are awesome. Thank you to you two gentlemen. As always, you do a wonderful job, and the show wouldn't be the same without you. So let's see. Chris, you want to sign off first for us tonight?
Sure thing. So thank you everyone for tuning in. There's been actually a fair amount of activity in the chat session. It's been a lot of fun just seeing all the comments and whatever. It's been really cool, and it's been awesome joining you gentlemen. So I hope we'll be able to do it more frequently as time goes by. Yeah, it's been nice. I've been getting in some nice riding. As you guys know, I ride all year round, so I still got my my heated gear already when that's necessary. Although it was interesting. I mean, this weekend we were like mid-70s, so it was like summertime again, which is really kind of cool. But I don't think that's going to be lasting. So everybody, do whatever you can to get out and enjoy some riding, and ride safe. And we will talk to you soon.
Larry?
Sounds good. Yeah. So thanks to the chat as well for being there and all the fun that you provide. And remember to get out and ride when you can, and ride safe and ride your own ride. Kevin?
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, like I said earlier, thank you very much. Everybody in the live stream, you guys are awesome. Everybody listening, wherever you're at, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Throttle Podcast. If you get out there and ride safe. We'll see you all next week. Bye, guys. And everybody in the live stream, awesome show. The notes went, the comments in the chat went absolutely bonkers. It was awesome to watch. I had to scroll back and like, what in God's name were they talking about?
As usual.
Yeah, I was like, what are we even talking about at this point?
Off the track.
And I actually saw K2's comments in there. I just happened to look over and saw a question for me, so I kind of contributed there for a little bit. But yeah, guys, I really appreciate everything you do, and the fact that you guys are here week in, week out for the show. Really appreciate it. Those of you that never miss, you're awesome. Those of you that are here for your first time, you're awesome as well. So we will catch up with you guys next Sunday, I believe. I don't have anything in the way from that. I do know around the holiday, Thanksgiving, we'll probably take a week off. But for now, we'll be here next Sunday. And I'm hoping by Wednesday to get at least one of the back episodes out if you want to listen to one of those again. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful week. See you guys.